The dawn breaks over a silent horizon, the first rays of light cutting through the darkness like blades of hope, and in that fragile moment between night and day, a voice whispers that greatness begins not with grand gestures but with the smallest acts of discipline, the kind that seem trivial yet hold the power to shape destiny. Imagine a young cadet standing in the cold barracks of Navy SEAL training. His body bruised, his spirit tested, and yet his first order of the day is not to conquer oceans or scale impossible walls but to make his bed, a simple act that becomes a symbol of order in chaos, a reminder that even when the world feels overwhelming, control begins with the things closest to you. And as the sheets are pulled tight and the corners tucked sharp, the cadet feels a surge of quiet strength. For in that moment he is not just arranging fabric but declaring war against disorder, against fear, against the creeping doubt that whispers he is too small to change anything. And so the bed becomes a battlefield, the first victory of the day, a ritual that says, "I will not be broken, I will not surrender, I will rise again tomorrow and fight." And as the camera pans across rows of perfectly made beds, the atmosphere thick with discipline and resolve, the narration swells with cinematic intensity, reminding us that the path to greatness is paved with small stones, each one laid with care, each one a step toward a future where ordinary people do extraordinary things. And it all begins here with the bed, with the choice to start strong, to start clean, to start ready for the battles that lie ahead. The ocean roars like a beast in the distance, its waves crashing against the shore with relentless fury, and in the heart of SEAL training the cadets are summoned to face the infamous circus, a punishment reserved for those who falter, those who fail to meet the impossible standards of endurance. And yet within this crucible of suffering lies a hidden lesson, for the circus is not merely punishment but transformation, a place where weakness is burned away and resilience is forged in fire, where every push-up, every sit-up, every sprint through the sand becomes a test of spirit rather than muscle. And as the cadet drags his weary body through the night, lungs burning, heart pounding, he discovers that failure is not the end but the beginning, that each stumble is a chance to rise stronger, each defeat a seed of victory waiting to bloom. And though the instructors bark orders with merciless precision, their eyes gleam with the knowledge that only those who embrace the pain will transcend it. Only those who endure the circus will emerge unbreakable, and so the cadet learns to welcome the suffering, to see in the sweat and exhaustion not despair but destiny, for greatness is not born in comfort but carved in struggle. And as the moonlight casts long shadows across the training ground, the narration swells with cinematic gravity, reminding us that the path to triumph is paved with nights of agony, that the circus is not a curse but a gift, a brutal gift that teaches the soul to fight when the body wants to surrender. And in that revelation lies the heartbeat of every warrior, every dreamer, every ordinary person who dares to rise beyond failure. The sun rises over the endless horizon, its golden fire spilling across the waves, and the cadets are called to face the ocean itself, a force that cares nothing for their pain, their ambition, or their fragile bodies, for the sea is merciless, swallowing men whole, dragging them into its cold embrace. And yet within its fury lies the lesson of teamwork, the truth that no one survives alone. Picture the small rubber boats, heavy and awkward, carried across sand by exhausted trainees, each man straining under the weight, each man tempted to let go. But if one falters the boat collapses, if one surrenders the mission fails. And so they learn to move as one, to breathe as one, to fight as one, their voices rising in chants that cut through the roar of the surf, their arms pulling in rhythm as they paddle against the tide. And in that unity they discover a power greater than muscle, greater than fear, a power born of trust, of sacrifice, of the knowledge that the man beside you is your lifeline, your anchor, your salvation. And as the waves crash over them, salt stinging their eyes, the narration swells with cinematic thunder, reminding us that life's greatest battles are not won in isolation but in brotherhood, that the storms of existence demand not solitary heroes but united souls. And in the spray of the ocean, in the rhythm of the paddles, in the fire of their chants, the cadets glimpse the truth. Together they are unstoppable. Together they are invincible. Together they will conquer the sea and every storm that lies beyond it. The night is heavy with silence, broken only by the distant crash of waves, and the cadets are summoned to face the most dreaded trial of all, the cold, black waters of the Pacific, where the instructors whisper of sharks circling unseen, of dangers lurking beneath the surface. And yet the true terror is not the predators but the darkness itself, The suffocating fear that creeps into the mind when vision fails and imagination takes over. And as the cadet slips into the icy depths, his breath stolen by the chill, his heart pounding against his ribs, he learns that courage is not the absence of fear but the mastery of it, that bravery is forged in the moments when panic claws at the soul and whispers surrender. And so he steadies his breath, focuses his mind, and pushes forward into the abyss, each stroke a defiance, each kick a declaration that he will not be consumed by shadows. And in that battle against the unseen, he discovers the essence of resilience, the truth that life will always throw us into waters we cannot control, into nights we cannot predict, into storms we cannot escape, and yet within those moments lies the chance to rise, to conquer, to prove that fear is nothing more than a phantom, powerless against a spirit that refuses to break. And as the camera lingers on the cadet's face, half lit by moonlight, half swallowed by darkness, the narration swells with cinematic gravity, reminding us that the bravest souls are not those who never tremble but those who tremble and swim anyway, those who dive into the unknown and emerge stronger, sharper, unshaken by the shadows that once threatened to drown them. The wind howls across the training ground, carrying with it the sting of sand and salt, and the cadets are ordered into the mud flats, a place so bleak and unforgiving it feels like the edge of the world, where the earth itself seems determined to swallow them whole. The cold mud clings to their bodies, seeping into their bones, dragging them down into a pit of despair, and as the hours stretch into eternity, the instructors whisper promises of relief. If only one man will quit, if only one voice will rise to surrender, but none do, for in that pit of misery the cadets discover the power of hope, the unbreakable strength of unity, as they sing together through chattering teeth, their voices trembling yet defiant, each note a spark against the darkness, each chorus a flame that refuses to die. And though the mud presses heavy, though the cold gnaws at their flesh, they realize that as long as they hold on to each other, as long as they believe in something greater than pain, they cannot be broken. And so the night becomes a testament to the human spirit, a cinematic tableau of men rising above suffering, proving that hope is not a fragile dream but a weapon, sharper than steel, stronger than fear. And as the camera lingers on their mud-streaked faces, lit by the faint glow of dawn, the narration swells with thunderous emotion, reminding us that when the world tries to bury us, when despair whispers surrender, it is hope that keeps us alive, hope that lifts us from the mud, hope that carries us into the light. The storm gathers over the horizon, clouds rolling like armies across the sky, and the cadets are ordered into the surf zone, where the waves crash with merciless rhythm, each one a hammer striking against their resolve. And as they lie shoulder to shoulder in the freezing water, the tide surges over them, pulling at their bodies, numbing their limbs, whispering surrender into their ears. Yet in that crucible of chaos they learn the power of perseverance, the truth that the body will always scream for relief long before the spirit is truly broken. And so they grit their teeth, lock their arms, and hold fast against the tide, each second stretching into eternity, each wave a test of will. And though the ocean roars with fury, though the cold gnaws at their bones, they discover that endurance is not about strength but about defiance, about refusing to yield when everything inside begs to quit. And as the instructors watch with calculating eyes, they know that those who survive the surf zone will carry within them a fire that no storm can extinguish, a resilience that no hardship can erode. And as the camera lingers on the cadets, half submerged, faces pale yet unbroken, the narration swells with cinematic thunder, reminding us that life's greatest victories are not won in moments of comfort but in the relentless refusal to surrender, that perseverance is the bridge between suffering and triumph, and that those who endure the tide will one day command the seas. The desert air trembles with heat, the horizon shimmering like a mirage, and the cadets are ordered to confront the obstacle course, a labyrinth of towering walls, tangled ropes, and endless barriers designed not merely to test their bodies but to break their spirits, for each wall looms higher than the last, each rope burns deeper into their hands, each leap demands more than strength, it demands belief, the unshakable conviction that no obstacle is too great, no barrier too permanent, no wall too high. And as the cadet stares at the towering structure before him, sweat dripping into his eyes, doubt whispers that he cannot climb, that he is too weak, too tired, too small, but he silences that voice with a single step forward, a single grip on the rope, a single surge of defiance, and as he ascends, muscles trembling, heart pounding, He discovers that obstacles are not meant to stop us but to reveal us, to show us who we are when the path is blocked, when the way forward seems impossible. And as he reaches the top, pulling himself over with a final burst of will, the world expands before him, the horizon opening wide, and the narration swells with cinematic fire, reminding us that life will always place walls in our way, but those walls are not prisons. They are gateways, and those who dare to climb will find not just victory but transformation. For every obstacle conquered is a declaration that nothing can hold us, nothing can bind us, nothing can keep us from rising. The night is thick with silence, broken only by the distant hum of helicopters, and the cadets are summoned to face the dreaded slide for life, a towering rope suspended high above the ground, swaying in the wind like a serpent daring them to climb. The rope stretches endlessly, its fibers rough against blistered hands, and as the cadet grips it, muscles trembling, fear whispers that one slip will send him crashing into the abyss below. Yet he knows that hesitation is death, that doubt is defeat, and so he launches forward with a surge of defiance, body swinging through the air, every movement a battle against gravity, every breath a war against panic, and as he inches across, sweat dripping, heart pounding, he discovers that courage is not about eliminating risk but about embracing it, about stepping into danger with faith that the spirit can carry the body where strength alone cannot, and though the rope shakes, though the void yawns beneath him, he refuses to let go, refuses to surrender, and when he finally reaches the other side, collapsing in exhaustion yet alive with triumph, the narration swells with cinematic fire, reminding us that life will always demand leaps of faith, that the path to greatness is not paved with certainty but with risk, and those who dare to cross the rope, those who dare to trust their spirit against the abyss, will find themselves transformed, stronger, braver, unshaken by the void that once threatened to consume them. The air is thick with tension, the silence broken only by the pounding of boots against the ground, and the cadets are summoned to face the dreaded long swim, a test that stretches beyond endurance, demanding not just strength but an iron will, for the ocean is vast and indifferent, its currents pulling them into the abyss, its waves mocking their fragile bodies, and as the cadet plunges into the water, each stroke feels heavier than the last, each breath a battle against exhaustion, yet he knows that survival depends not on speed but on rhythm, not on panic but on patience, and so he steadies his movements, finds the cadence of the sea, and pushes forward into the endless horizon, his mind whispering surrender, his body begging for rest, but his spirit roaring louder, declaring that he will not be broken, he will not be consumed, he will not be lost to the tide. And as the hours stretch into eternity, the cadet discovers that true strength lies not in bursts of power but in the quiet persistence of never stopping, of refusing to quit even when the finish line feels like a mirage, and when at last he emerges from the water, lungs burning, muscles trembling, yet alive with triumph, the narration swells with cinematic thunder, reminding us that life's greatest journeys are not sprints but marathons, that endurance is the bridge between despair and victory, and that those who keep swimming, stroke after stroke, breath after breath, will one day find themselves standing on the shore of destiny. The dawn breaks with a crimson fire, painting the sky in hues of battle, and the cadets are summoned to face the final test of leadership, a trial not of muscle or endurance but of vision, for in the chaos of training, in the storms of exhaustion, the true measure of a warrior is not how far he can run or how long he can swim, but how he can inspire others when all hope seems lost. And as the cadet stands before his team, their faces pale, their bodies trembling, he feels the weight of responsibility pressing against his chest, the knowledge that his words, his courage, his resolve will decide whether they rise or fall, and so he speaks. Not with grandeur, not with poetry, but with the raw fire of conviction, reminding them of the battles they have already won, the nights they have already endured, the storms they have already conquered, and in his voice they hear not just orders but belief, the unshakable faith that together they can endure anything, together they can defy the impossible, together they can rise. And as the team surges forward, united in spirit, unbroken in resolve, the narration swells with cinematic thunder, reminding us that leadership is not about commanding from above but about standing in the mud, in the surf, in the storm, shoulder to shoulder with those you lead, and that the greatest leaders are not those who demand sacrifice but those who embody it, who carry the weight of their team and refuse to let them fall. And in that moment the Cadet becomes more than a trainee. He becomes a beacon, a flame in the darkness, a leader forged in fire. The horizon glows with the fading fire of dusk, the sky painted in strokes of crimson and gold, and the cadets are summoned to face the final crucible of trust, a test that demands not only courage but faith in the unseen, for in the silence of the training ground, the instructors order them to leap into the void, to throw themselves from towering heights into the darkness below, and as the cadet stands at the edge, heart pounding, breath shallow, doubt whispers that the fall will break him, that the abyss will consume him, yet he knows that life itself is a leap, that destiny demands risk, that greatness requires surrender to the unknown, and so he steps forward, body soaring through the air, the wind tearing at his face, the ground rushing up to meet him, and in that moment of freefall he discovers the truth. That trust is not weakness but strength, that faith is not blindness but vision, that sometimes the only way to rise is to let go. And when he lands, rolling into the dust, heart still racing, spirit alive with triumph, the narration swells with cinematic thunder, reminding us that the greatest victories are born in leaps of faith, that the abyss is not a grave but a gateway, and those who dare to jump will find themselves transformed, stronger, braver, unshaken by the void that once threatened to consume them. The horizon blazes with the fire of dawn, the world awakening to a new day, and the cadet, once broken, once tested, once forged in the crucible of pain, now stands tall, his spirit unshaken, his resolve unbreakable, his heart alive with the knowledge that greatness is not born in comfort but carved in struggle, not given by fate but earned through discipline, sacrifice, and relentless courage. And as he looks back upon the trials, the mud, the surf, the rope, the abyss, he realizes that each challenge was not a punishment but a gift, each hardship not a curse but a lesson, each failure not an end but a beginning, and in that revelation lies the truth that Admiral McRaven sought to share. That if you want to change the world, start with the small things, start with the bed, start with the discipline that builds the foundation for triumph, for it is in the ordinary acts that extraordinary lives are built. And as the narration swells with cinematic thunder, the voice declares to all who listen, rise each day with courage, face each storm with defiance, embrace each failure with resilience, and never forget that within you lies the power to change not just your life but the lives of those around you, for greatness is not reserved for the chosen few. It is waiting for anyone who dares to begin, anyone who dares to fight, anyone who dares to make their bed and march into destiny. And so the curtain falls, the music rises, and the final words echo like a battle cry. Get your copy from Amazon to read the book completely. The link is given below in the description.